if the soul of your Porsche had a voice? I'm Derek from 11 After 9, and today we're going to dive into one of the most exciting and yet oftentimes underrated options for the Porsche 981 Boxster, the Porsche Sport Exhaust. I've captured some stunningly realistic 3D audio by miking up the exhaust system, so please put your headphones on. You're going to be hearing it not only from the driver's seat, but really what it sounds like at the level of the exhaust. And I'm going to run through each mode. What it's like just a normal mode heading around town. What it's going to be like when you push the Sport Exhaust button, but it's not in Sport mode. And then finally unleashing the full character of the car, Sport button down, Porsche Sport Exhaust open, and ripping through some back roads of New Hampshire. The reason I wanted to do this video was because I found in my research when I was looking for cars and if the Sport Exhaust mattered, that there was surprisingly little content out there showing just how dramatically this option changes the driving experience. And so I wanted to fix that, and I think you're really going to enjoy what I have to show you. So if you're passionate about Porsche, or looking to buy a Boxster, or just want a real take on how the Porsche Sport Exhaust sounds, please subscribe and stick around because you're about to hear why the Porsche Sport Exhaust is a must-have for any real enthusiast. You might find me doing this type of video with different cars as the channel grows. I think it's so important to get a good sense of what the car sounds like. There's really nothing else outside of driving feel that helps add to the immediacy and the intimacy of driving a Porsche. The Porsche sound has been carefully curated over many years, and I think it's such an integral part of the experience that I really wanted you to get a good sense of what it's like when you're looking at used cars out there and deciding which options are your must-haves or maybe some options that you might pass on. The other thing that really kind of bugged me when I was looking up videos for exhausts in the past was you might get a couple drive-by videos of a car burning down the street at 40, 50, 60 miles an hour, and you get about 1.5 seconds of what that sounds like from an outside bystander perspective. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you might get an in-the-cockpit feel, but you very rarely get to experience what it's like to be sitting in the driver's seat and hear those pops and buzzes right behind your ears and what that really does to add to the overall experience. So very quickly, what is the Porsche Sport Exhaust? Essentially, it's an exhaust system that features electronically controlled valves that alters the exhaust sound based completely on the driver's preference. So it's not a louder exhaust, you can get those in the aftermarket, but rather it's specifically acoustically engineered to enhance specific engine tones that Porsche feels are distinctive to the model. When it's equipped, Porsche Sport Exhaust, or PSE as I'll call it in this video, adds a visually appealing set of polished stainless steel dual tailpipes. It certainly adds to kind of the aggressive look of the rear end in the Boxster. Because it's a valve-controlled technology, a simple push of the button in the cockpit can take it from good neighbor mode to ripping around back roads and wanting to feel every rev of the motor mode. And as I mentioned earlier, it actually has multiple different personalities. What it sounds like in normal mode versus Porsche Sport Exhaust mode versus the Porsche Sport Exhaust mode in Sport mode are actually three very distinctive tones. As later in the video, we're going to talk about if your car was not equipped with Porsche Sport Exhaust, what can that mean for you? Is it something you can add? Are there any other aftermarket examples that you can put on your car that will give you that same feel? Or, quite frankly, can you just get away with listening to the Porsche motor without any kind of enhancements? I have found in my experience that the direct fuel injected motors post 2009 that Porsche put in its Boxsters and its 911s are characteristically a little bit quieter. And also it has been noted that in even newer generations, because of the advent of additional emission control equipment that's placed between the motor and the exhaust, sometimes it's hard to hear every single characteristic note of the motor. I'll cover each of the three distinct modes, and then at the end we'll do a back-to-back-to-back comparison, just so you can get a good sense if the Porsche Sport Exhaust is right for you. In the normal driving mode, which means the valves are closed, I would say that the exhaust tone is definitely subtle, it's refined, it's suitable for the daily commuting or relaxed cruising that one might accept, especially when leaving early in the morning. I do notice that when I start up the car and everything is very cold, the exhaust does give a very pleasing little bark, and after it finishes its quick warm-up cycle, it settles down into a very subdued idle. The intake notes are definitely more prominent in this mode, while you can kind of hear the more mechanical nature of the motor emanating from right behind your head. Moving on to pushing that sport exhaust button, when this mode is activated, the valves in the exhaust open up to allow the engine to breathe a little bit more freely, and it produces a noticeably sportier sound profile, even at those lower RPMs. It's a throatier, bassier rumble that's pleasing without being drony. And I really want to hammer this home. In none of the exhaust modes do I get any sense of drone in this car. I personally think drone is the death of an aftermarket exhaust. It can sound as amazing as you want when you're at full tilt and high RPMs, or when you're at idle sitting at a red light. But if you're cruising at 4,000 RPM and you just can't bear to live life because the drone from the exhaust is drilling into your head, it's just not worth doing. Sometimes I think for the day-to-day, driving around in the normal drive mode but with the sport exhaust activated is actually the secret sauce of this whole operation. You get the character of the motor, you get the deep bassy rumble of the exhaust as you accelerate, especially up into the higher RPMs, which the base Boxster really loves for you to do. You get to enjoy all of the Porsche sounds, but you don't quite get the boy racer pop pop and burbles on overrun. So let's talk about the Porsche Sport Exhaust in combination with the Sport mode activated. Of course, with the Sport Exhaust activated, the throttle response is sharpened up, the car takes on much more of an aggressive personality, and the exhaust does not disappoint. If you're in normal mode with the Porsche Exhaust activated, and let's say that's an 8 out of 10, having it in Sport mode with the PSC activated is like an 11. It is glorious at upper revs, and backfires and the pops from the rear end of this car sound like you're at the end of the straight at Le Mans. The car feels like it's going faster. You might not physically be going faster, but everything is heightened. Everything is taken to the next level. And the soundtrack that you're dancing to as you drive down these back roads makes all the difference. So here's the real talk. When I'm buying a base Boxster, I'm looking to make sure that it's a manual, and that's a personal preference. I think that the manual offers a level of driver engagement that you can get very few other places. With that being said, the Porsche Sport Exhaust, in my mind, is the next must-have when I'm buying a car. It's that good. As you can hear from the videos that I shared with you, it completely changes the character of the car. It takes the level of driving enjoyment to that much higher of a level, and I think it is absolutely important, period. I think Porsche hit it out of the park with PSE. It's integrated, it's an exhaust that's covered under a warranty when the car is new. So, what happens if you buy a car and it doesn't have this Porsche Sport Exhaust? Well, you can retrofit it. I'll warn you now, though, it's an expensive proposition. It's not uncommon to hear stories of having someone install it for upwards of $4,000 or $5,000. Now, granted, that might be done at a Porsche service center, but that's because there is a level of programming that's involved with making sure that it's integrated properly. If you were to look on the aftermarket, there are a lot of options, especially for these modern Porsches, and the Porsche Boxster is no exception. I haven't had a huge in-depth experience with all the different companies, and so I'm not going to talk good or bad about any of them, except one. And I feel very comfortable sharing this with the audience because I think it's the next best thing to rolling out of the Porsche factory door. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about the Fister exhaust by Darren Fister and FD Motorsports. I've had extensive experience with Darren's products in a lot of my air-cooled and water-cooled applications on the 911 side, and I have been blown away. And please, I don't get any kickbacks or compensation. I actually really think that this is a great exhaust, and Darren is a hell of a nice guy, and customer service always comes first. So there you have it. A first-hand experience of the Porsche Sport Exhaust on the platform of the 981 Boxster base 2.7 liter. If you want to see more videos like this, please let me know down in the comments. I'd love to make this a reoccurring thing on the channel if you all find value. And if you don't mind, I'd ask anyone watching this video to please subscribe below. We're a brand new YouTube channel and trying to get out there and do some great Porsche content for everyone and share my experience in a real and relatable manner. And if you're in the car and want to hear two knuckleheads talking about Porsche, please listen to our podcast for Enthusiast Radio. That can be found on Apple Podcasts and also Spotify. Until the next one, I want to thank all of you so much for watching. It's been a joy to hear the feedback down below. Please continue that. I read everything, and it continues to light the fire to create more Porsche content for all of you out there.